Thinking up to here, Su Wanjing's tears couldn't help but flow out from her eyes. Lord, how could you do such to me? Bailey Jintao was originally vexed, and when he saw Su Wanjing tears spill out, his heart had a burst of irritation. All day, you only know how to cry. What else can you do but cry? Su Wanjing's figure trembled as the tears grew more and more violent. An unspeakable sadness spread from the bottom of her heart. Seeing this, Bailey Haoshuan took a few steps forward and spoke. Father, since we can't do anything now, we might as well participate in the wedding with dignity. No matter the outcome, you are still an honored general. Who dares to tell us what to do? Even if that Prime Ministerly taunts us, it's no big deal if we just ignore them. I believe that he wouldn't dare to call us out just to mock us. Bailey Jintao's face relaxed slightly as he proudly looked at Bailey Haoshuan. In this family of his, only Bailey Haoshuan could share his worries. As for Su Wanjing and Bailey Yuyan, they were only good for causing trouble. The auspicious time arrived. Bailey Hongzhuang left Qinzhuang Garden, surrounded by a cluster of nannies and maids. In the garden, Bailey Hongzhuang saw a martial out-of-the-ordinary figure clad in red. Dibei Chen sat on a horse and had donned a matching red robe. His bewitchingly handsome face held an enormous smile, excluding happiness like a sun radiated heat, attracting everyone's attention. In that moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly felt as if a beloved person of hers was getting married and laughed, her laughter permeating with delight. Dibei Chen was also shocked as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He had always thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be very beautiful with her makeup and hair done as a bride. But what he saw today far surpassed his imagination. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's usual look, it was less pure and elegant but more charming and enchanting, a smile capable of stealing a person's soul. He had never thought about what he wanted his bride to look like. But in that instant, he knew he wanted his bride to look like this. The two pairs of eyes met, sharing a smile worth 1,000 words. Under the sounds of firecrackers and blessings, Bailey Hongzhuang got on the bridal palanquin. She was slowly carried to Chen Imperial Palace. Chen Palace was lively. Many guests had arrived and were all laughing and talking about the wedding. I heard that it was Prince Chen who took the initiative to set the wedding date today. It seems like Prince Chen is really looking forward to marrying Bailey Hongzhuang. Haha, who doesn't look forward to marrying a beautiful woman? Didn't you see that His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, was acting like he lost his soul? Sure, you can't say that aloud, one man said hastily. After today, Bailey Hongzhuang would become Princess Chen. If you pull back what happened between Xinyuan Huan and Bailey Hongzhuang, today would be the day of your death. The person who said it naturally knew what he said was wrong and laughed hollowly. Do you think the general's household will come today? Bailey Hongzhuang and Prince Chen didn't even put them in their sight. The emperor will be coming soon. Bailey Jintao wouldn't dare to disobey the emperor's orders, so he'll definitely come. I think Bailey Hongzhuang was taking revenge. We all know very clearly just how the general's household treated her. The guest's face changed. This was the most watched wedding in the imperial city. The former crown prince's wife is marrying Prince Chen to become Princess Chen, while also completely disregarded her paternal family, making the general's household to lose face. Just the thought of this made them all feel that this wedding will be very interesting. For Bailey Hongzhuang to marry from Qinzhuang Garden, many people thought that Bailey Jintao just got what he deserved. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't cultivate, she was, after all, his daughter. It wasn't right for Bailey Jintao to treat Bailey Hongzhuang so shamefully. Two daughters, yet they were treated so differently. Why wouldn't Bailey Hongzhuang be so cold to the general's household? The firecrackers crackled and everyone's faces revealed anticipation. The bride had arrived. Dibei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang moved together to the front hall. Their bright red garments attracted everybody's eyes. Seeing Dibei Chen sitting on his wheelchair, everybody's heart sighed with emotion. A man of such peerless grace and elegance just had to be a cripple. If it wasn't for that, the two would truly be a great match. Just then, a sharp voice sounded. His Majesty, the Emperor has arrived. His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince has arrived. Everybody turned to bow. The fact that the Emperor himself is personally attending was enough to prove just how important the wedding was. Everybody may rise. Xinyuan Yutian smiled and spoke. Today is Prince Chen and Princess Chen's joyous day. Everyone may relax. Thanks the Emperor. Li Chengqian's mood was currently very good. This wedding today made Bailey Jintao lose enough face. The Emperor had already arrived now, but Bailey Jintao still hasn't come. Once this crime was pinned on you, it wasn't a small deal. But when he rose his head, Li Chengqian's face couldn't help but change. Bailey Jintao and the rest of the general's household were standing just behind the Emperor and Crown Prince. I didn't expect that General Bailey would actually come with the Emperor. Li Chengqian tested the waters. Xinyuan Yutian chuckled. Just so happened to run into each other outside the palace and decided to come in together. Hearing this, Li Chengqian's face darkened. Bailey Jintao had really good luck. Bailey Jintao also looked at Li Chengqian darkly. After being rivals for so long, he was very clear what kind of things Li Chengqian plotted in his heart. Now that the Emperor was here, he wouldn't dare to say a thing. Since everybody is here, let the wedding begin. Xinyuan Yutian took the initiative and sat down on the highest seat. This was a position meant specially for him. For the Emperor to personally come for the wedding, it was an unsurpassed honor for Chen Palace. Now, everyone focused on the figure walking in. Earlier, she had just entered when the courier announced the arrival of the Emperor. Everybody was focused on the Emperor, and almost nobody took any notice of the bride's appearance. With one look, a stunned light emerged in everybody's eyes. Before, everybody had some understanding about Bailey Hongzhuang's looks, but now, they could only feel like the rumors were too modest. Was Bailey Hongzhuang just attractive? No, she was an absolutely stunningly beautiful woman. Her looks were peerless in the world. Bewitching was known as the imperial city's most handsome man by the public. Any woman, no matter how beautiful, would only lose their light when standing next to him. But now as Bailey Hongzhuang stood next to him, everybody could only sigh emotionally. They were simply a match made in heaven. Wow, this Princess Chen is truly beautiful. We didn't see her for a few days, and she seemed to have grown even more gorgeous. Who was it that said the most beautiful woman in the imperial city was Li Yuyue? In my opinion, Princess Chen is the real most beautiful woman in the imperial city. Right. If I could marry such a beautiful woman, I'd be willing to give away 10 years of my life. Everybody praised generously. Many of the people in the crowd were actually Bailey Hongzhuang's patients. Furthermore, many of their younger generation was preparing for the hunting feast. The cultivation pills that godly Dr. Square sold helped them a lot. Therefore, they were all very grateful to Bailey Hongzhuang. If it wasn't for her, how could so many of their problems be solved so easily? Xinyuan Huan stared at the perfect, delicate face in front of him. He had known Bailey Hongzhuang for 10 years, but never ever had he truly looked at her. In his heart, Bailey Hongzhuang was always trash that wasn't at all worthy of his status, and whose appearance that couldn't even begin to be compared to Bailey Yuyan. And now, looking at her face that was glowing with good health, it was Bailey Yuyan who simply couldn't begin to be compared with her. Such beauty should have been loyally following him. It was him that should be in the groom's position right now, but now, it had nothing to do with him. The thought of Bailey Hongzhuang becoming Bewitching's made his chest feel unspeakably tight, his heart full of regret. The minute Bailey Yuyan entered Qin Palace, her eyes were always on Xinyuan Huan. Now as she watched Xinyuan Huan stare fixatedly at Bailey Hongzhuang, her heart had a burst of irritation. She turned her eyes to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. She wants to see just how beautiful Bailey Hongzhuang's red wedding dress was to steal Xinyuan Huan's soul. With just a glance, Bailey Yuyan's face turned extremely ugly, her heart crazed with jealousy. How could this woman become so beautiful in such a short amount of time? Sensing Bailey Yuyan's envious stare, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly turned her head to look at her. The eyes met, sparks flying in the air. Bailey Hongzhuang's exquisite, beautiful face formed an enchanting smile as she looked at Bailey Yuyan disdainfully. The present Bailey Yuyan had nothing to do for her. Even looking at her was a waste of time. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude, Bailey Yuyan was so angry that her face turned red. Bailey Hongzhuang was really too hateful. First, pay respects to the Emperor. Dibei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang obediently paid respects to the Emperor. But nobody could see the disdain and unwillingness present in Bei Chen's eyes. Luckily, he didn't want to cause any drama and restrained himself. Xinyuan Yutian calmed down and smiled, accepting Bailey Hongzhuang and Bei Chen's bow. Second, bow to heaven and earth. Hearing the shout, Bailey Zhentao's face stiffened. Since the emperor was here, they must first pay respects to the emperor. But then second, you must pay respects to the parents. Bei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang actually directly proceeded to bow to heaven and earth. Wasn't this just completely ignoring them? Bei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang bowed to heaven and earth. Husband and wife bow to each other. Everybody looked at each other blankly. It looks like the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and the general's household has truly become completely unfixable. Marrying not from the general's household but somewhere else, and now even completely ignoring Bailey Zhentao under the glare of the public eye. This was truly leaving them no face. Bailey Zhentao's face was livid, his fists clenching tightly under his robes, the blue vein protruding on his forehead clearly showing the fury he felt inside. This unfilial daughter, daring to not give him any face in front of everyone. The light in Xinyuan Yutian's eyes sunk. Bei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang were going too far. Isn't the second step bowing to the parents? What do you mean by this? Xinyuan Yutian slowly opened his mouth and spoke, his behavior aggressive to Bei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang. The hall was in silence as everyone's eyes focused on Bei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that the emperor won't stand for it, what will they do? Bailey Yuyan's face looked like she was watching a play. This time, she wants to see how Bailey Hongzhuang will continue acting so arrogant. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was calm and unhurried as she spoke, replying to the emperor. The truth is, a few days ago, General Bailey has already chosen to cut off all family ties. If not so, I wouldn't be marrying from a place elsewhere of the general's household today. In fact, she didn't even know that Bei Chen would handle this matter so thoroughly, even going as far as to ignore the second step, bowing to the parents. But this was perfect for her. Taking advantage of this opportunity today, she can finally put an end to all and any relationships with the general's household. She doesn't need such a gang as family. By breaking off all ties, she can also free herself from a lot of worries. At the very least from then on, the general's household will no longer be qualified to find trouble with her. Bailey Hongzhuang's words fell. Bailey Zhentao's face changed, and the crowd was stunned as they watched. Everybody knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and the general's household were in conflict with each other for a long time, but they didn't expect for Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Zhentao to even cut off all father-daughter ties. If it was like this, Bailey Hongzhuang held no fault at all. Since she no longer had any relationship with Bailey Zhentao, then, of course, she'd be marrying from Qinzhuang Garden. How could she possibly still marry from the general's household? Bailey Zhentao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang angrily. He couldn't believe this girl actually dared to speak about this to the emperor. Bailey Yuyan's face, who was watching Bailey Hongzhuang like a play, had long been changed to worry. Bailey Hongzhuang sure was ruthless, directly forcing the general's household into an unjust situation. Although everybody silently ridiculed the general's household situation today, nobody thought that they did anything wrong. But now that Bailey Hongzhuang opened her mouth, everything became the general's household's fault, while she was free of any mistakes. Xinyuan Yutian never expected to receive such a reply, his gaze landing on Bailey Zhentao's body. General Bailey, is what Princess Chen said true? Bailey Zhentao's face was embarrassed, and for that moment, he couldn't make up an answer. Seeing Bailey Zhentao's reaction, Xinyuan Yutian easily understood the situation. So what Bailey Hongzhuang had said was true. On that day, this prince personally saw his future princess being forcefully kicked out of her home by the general's household. So this prince gave her Qinzhuang Garden as a betrothal gift. Bei Chen suddenly raised his voice, his tone a little disdainful. General Bailey, are you saying you aren't satisfied with this prince as a son-in-law? In her mind, Bailey Hongzhuang was laughing wildly. Bei Chen's ability to twist the truth and turn black into white was in no way lesser than her own. Pushing the blame on the victim, yet not forgetting to wash his hands clean of any responsibility. Hearing his words, everyone was in an uproar. Now, They could completely understand why Bei Chun had directly ignored the general's household whilst conducting the wedding ceremony. If the general's household wasn't satisfied with him, then why must he go and cast his own misfortune? Xinyuan Yutian's eyes flashed with displeasure. If Bailey Jintao wasn't satisfied with Bei Chun, then doesn't that mean he also wasn't satisfied with him for bestowing the marriage? Bailey Jintao looked at Bei Chun. They've clearly never interacted before, but his words clearly revealed his dissatisfaction. Bailey Jintao added this on Bailey Hongzhuang's tab. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang telling Bei Chun, then how would Bei Chun have such a misunderstanding with him? Emperor, this official was only unhappy and said those words in a moment of anger. By no means was I unsatisfied with the marriage. Bailey Jintao hastily argued back. It really wouldn't be good if the emperor formed a bad opinion of him because of this. Although Bailey Jintao quickly clarified himself, the emperor's face was still stiff as he turned and waved his hand. Continue the wedding. Everybody looked at each other in dismay. It looks like a rift had been created between the emperor and General Bailey. The ritual finished, and Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the wedding room with the help of a nanny. The nanny left after saying some things, leaving Bailey Hongzhuang in the room alone. Bailey Hongzhuang relaxed. Getting married was truly too exhausting. In comparison, Bei Chun had to entertain the guests outside and must be even more tired. Master, that Bailey Jintao is definitely out of luck this time, Little Black said with a laugh. Just a look at that old codger made his mood turn bad. Now watching Bailey Jintao dumbfounded, speechless, he was very happy. At the very least, because of this, the emperor is very dissatisfied with Bailey Jintao. Probably now, Bailey Jintao will have to behave with his tail tucked under his legs. Little White's eyes curved into crescents. She was always worried whenever she watched Bailey Jintao rage at Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, it was time for revenge. Haha, from now on, we won't have to see that old codger's disgusting face. Little Black and Little White's tiny faces were full of glee. Although the marriage was no more than a farce, now Bailey Jintao doesn't have any qualifications to speak to Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, their ears can finally be clean. Bailey Hongzhuang revealed a faint smile. Bailey Jintao and the rest of the general's household must be on tenterhooks right now. Even though she knew that she wasn't Bailey Jintao's daughter, she still wanted justice for the previous dead Bailey Hongzhuang. Master, so much yummy food on the table. Little Black's eyes stared at the food and wine. Since he came in, he was always attracted by the fragrance. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Today, her mood was quite good as she waved her hands. Taking care of the guests won't take a short time, so she might as well fill her stomach. The moon rose on the tip of a willow branch, the night like water. When Bei Chun opened the door and saw the mess on the table, a smile appeared on his face. He didn't feel anything strange about the scene. After all, the woman he married was in whichever way, completely different from an ordinary woman. This was Bailey Hongzhuang's charm. Wifey, I'm here. Bei Chun slowly went in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, a smile on his face. Bei Chun seemed to have drank a large amount of liquor. His bewitchingly handsome face flushed like he was drunk. It was very different from the day. Seeing how Bei Chun could still remember to act crippled even when drunk, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with admiration. This man really wasn't simple. It was hard on you. Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow, speaking casually. Bei Chun frowned. Is this the only thing wifey wants to say to me? What else? Bei Chun smiled ambiguously, turning to pour 2 cups of wine in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. He handed her one of the 2 cups. May we live happily together until our hair grows white from old age. Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. Looking at the faint smile on Bei Chun's face, she had no clue if he actually serious or just joking. This marriage is nothing but a mutual cooperation with each other. You can't be too serious about it, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Wifey's spoiling the fun. Bei Chun pretended to be unhappy. On the wedding night, you should still say something. Bailey Hongzhuang was too lazy to dispute Bei Chun's nonsense. Right now, that guy couldn't even distinguish between what was true and what was false. She clinked her glass to his. Happy cooperation. Bei Chun's smile brightened. and he raised his cup, draining the wine in one shot. With a beauty accompanying me, this wine becomes much more rich. Bailey Jintao already left? Bailey Hongzhuang asked calmly, her voice unhurried. You left him no face in front of everybody. How could he continue to stay here? Dibei-chin asked back. He made an excuse saying he didn't feel well and left. Tsk. Now I'm afraid he completely hates me. Saying this, Dibei-chin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang innocently, his eyes clear and bright. Wifey, you must comfort my wounded heart. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled quietly. You were the one who provoked him first. Even she didn't expect for Dibei-chin to go so far to skip the wedding bow, not giving Bailey Jintao the slightest bit of face before using words to force him into an awkward situation. Wifey, you can't say things like that. I did it for you. Listening, Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged, but inside, her heart was touched. Dibei-chin did this accounting for her emotions. No matter what, doing so in front of the emperor, it was a very heavy risk for him. He knew this, but he still chose to do such a thing. That was enough to explain everything. After a long time, Bailey Hongzhuang quietly spoke. Thank you. She was very clear that even if the emperor was personally attending, there was no way she could bring herself to bow to Bailey Jintao. With that, the situation would have become even more difficult to end. His deep, ocean-like pupils flashed with a ray of light as a dubious smile suddenly bloomed on Dibei-chin's face. Wifey, now you're my princess. Why speak so formally? This long-awaited spring night is bitterly short, and talking will only waste time. Won't it be better to do something more meaningful? By the time he finished, Dibei-chin's tone was extremely ambiguous. Bailey Hongzhuang's face reddened. On a wedding night, she naturally understood what husband and wife were supposed to do. Yes, the night is deep, it's time to sleep. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Dibei-chin's eyes flashed. He was looking forward to Bailey Hongzhuang, but instead, she just went and prepared to sleep on the bed. Wifey's words are right. The night is good, truly good for sleeping. Deliberately saying the word good twice, Dibei-chin's mouth was blooming with flowers. But the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang threw 2 blankets at Dibei-chin, the smile on her mouth elegant and charming. Since you're having a hard time, sleep on the ground and have a good rest. Finishing her words, she directly turned and laid on the bed, using her actions to prove her point. Watching Bailey Hongzhuang, a helpless smile appeared on Dibei-chin's face as he looked at the 2 blankets in his hands. But even so, a spoiling, loving light appeared in his eyes. Seeing how Dibei-chin didn't do anything but lie on the ground and sleep, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Even with having lived 2 lifetimes, she still had no experience. Lying on the soft bed, it took a long time for Bailey Hongzhuang to fall asleep. Maybe it was because she had never slept on such a soft bed in elegant daylily pavilion. It took her a while to adjust. Or maybe it was because there was never a man breathing in the room as she slept. Wifey, is the candle too bright for you to sleep? Dibei-chin asked, concerned as he suddenly got up from the floor. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but be surprised and immediately pointed. The red candle's too bright. I'm not used to it. Her heart couldn't help but feel a little guilty. In fact, she couldn't sleep because of Dibei-chin. The room turned dark as Dibei-chin blew out the candle. Now wifey can rest well. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang replied, and the room fell into silence. Oh well, she just won't sleep tonight and have a good rest tomorrow. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang heard light footsteps coming from outside the door. Although the footsteps were actually very quiet, as a cultivator, her hearing was far above an ordinary person's and almost immediately discovered them. It's so late. Who would be sneaking around outside their door? Just when Bailey Hongzhuang was about to get up to see who was being so sneaky, her body was suddenly pinned down by a large silhouette. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help and scream, but Dibei-chin covered her mouth, not allowing a single sound to leak through. Dibei-chin leaned close to her ear, his voice low as he whispered, "The walls have ears. Someone may be listening." Hearing his voice, Bailey Hongzhuang's tense body relaxed a little as she started to think. Only the emperor could have sent these people. Although she still wasn't clear what Dibei-chin's identity was, she knew that the emperor was very wary of him. As for the rumor about him being an illegitimate child, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't believe it at all after learning his true strength. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Dibei Chun and gestured for him to get down. Just how much longer does this guy want to lie on her body? Although Dibei Chun wasn't very heavy, this face-to-face posture, it was just too ambiguous. Wife, you're so beautiful. Dibei Chin's voice was low and hoarse, his eyes staring at this woman whose beauty could overturn entire cities, and a strange feeling spread in his heart. Moonlight peeked through the window, spilling in the room. It was just barely enough to see the other's face, beautiful and hazy, making the atmosphere even more intoxicating. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. This was the first time she saw Dibei Chin's face up close. She could clearly feel his breath on her skin, burning hot yet somewhat itchy. She couldn't help but want to shrink her neck away. The pair of bewitching, deep eyes were glowing with a dazzling light. Even the starry sky was lost to his sparkling eyes. The two stared at one another. In that moment, they almost forgot about the people standing outside the door. In their eyes, there were only each other. The room was extremely quiet. Bailey Hongzhuang could clearly hear her own heartbeat hammering in her chest, thump, thump, interrupting her usual calmness. In my opinion, Prince Jun definitely won't have a problem. Princess Bailey is such a rare beauty who would deliberately choose to miss the opportunity. But why isn't there any sound? Outside the room, they were putting their ears on the door, listening for any movement inside the room. Although they weren't sure why they were given such a job, since the higher-ups told them to do so, they could only do it. Dibei Chun rapped his knuckles on the headboard and moved a little. Hearing the sounds, understanding smiles appeared on the two faces outside. It looks like they can report back with accomplishments. As the two's footsteps walked away, Bailey Hongzhuang was relieved. The two were finally dealt with. You can get down now. Dibei Chun looked at her with a smile. Wifey, you're blushing. Even in the room's dim lighting, he could still see Bailey Hongzhuang's reddened cheeks. Love and affection suddenly filled his heart. Bailey Hongzhuang felt her body turn stiff as his hot breath fanned her face. Her voice was hard. You want a lot. Oh, Dibei Chun raised an eyebrow, deliberately dragging his voice. Originally this was, you hurry up and get off. Bailey Hongzhuang was ashamed into anger. At first, she wanted to directly kick this guy off the bed, but then she feared it'd be too loud and the two people outside would hear. And second, because this guy's strength was so big, she couldn't even push him. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance, the smile in Dibei Chin's eyes deepened. Usually, Bailey Hongzhuang always looked calm and indifferent. It was the first time he saw other emotions in her eyes, and although it was anger, he still felt it was very cute. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes turned shocked as Dibei Chin's handsome face slowly approached her. She immediately pushed against him, but his body was like an unmoving hill. This guy was viewing her as a joke. Just as Dibei Chin's face was about to touch Bailey Hongzhuang's lips, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly jerked her head to the side. His warm breath blew on the nape of her neck as he raised his head to whisper words that made her ears turn red. Wifey, you're really cute. Dibei Chin's words were spoken with sincerity. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly so cute that others just couldn't resist. If you don't get down, I'll give you a taste of life worse than death. Bailey Hongzhuang grinded her teeth. This guy dared to tease her so much. She had to let him see her power. Dibei Chin's face changed slightly. He could clearly feel Bailey Hongzhuang bending her knees. His little wife can really be ruthless. Suddenly, Dibei Chin's lips hooked up into a bewitching smile. He tightly hugged her and reversed their positions. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang laid on his body. Wifey, you're too cruel. Bailey Hongzhuang was also stunned for a moment, being hugged tightly by Dibei Chun. Both her hands rushed at Dibei Chun. This man was just too hateful. Seeing how Bailey Hongzhuang was truly unhappy, Dibei Chun caught her hands and smiled quietly. Okay, I'll stop teasing you. Saying so, Dibei Chun released his hands, allowing Bailey Hongzhuang to leave his arms. Looking at Dibei Chin's appearance after taking advantage of her, Bailey Hongzhuang snorted coldly. She won't care about this guy any longer. But in her heart, she was actually sulking. If she had more time to cultivate, then she never wouldn't have been suppressed by this guy. When they had fought with each other, the jade pendant also fell with the outer robe of her dress. When Chun saw the jade, the light in his eyes sharpened. Wife, where did you get the jade pendant from? Listening to Chin's almost shocked voice, a light flashed in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Chin's tone clearly revealed that he knew something about the jade pendant. Since Bailey Hongzhuang found this, the only proof of her identity, she had always been carrying it around on her body. She could only hope that she could find her biological parents sometime in the future. Just the jade pendant couldn't really mean anything. In her view, trying to find her parents with the jade pendant alone was just too difficult. She never thought that there was someone by her side that actually knew about it. You know what this jade pendant is? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Chan stared deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang and spoke. That jade pendant is a family token. Before, I had just so happened to have accidentally seen a similar pendant in Fengbo country. A family token? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. From which family? The Lan family. Chin's words were blunt. As long as somebody was on at least his level, they would all know that this jade pendant belonged to the Lan family. But the strange thing was, why is this jade pendant with Bailey Hongzhuang? Since it was a family token, it was very precious. Furthermore, the jade pendant was something only directly related descendants of the Lan family could have. It'd be extremely strange for it to have fallen into the hands of an outsider. The Lan family? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrow. Fengbo country doesn't have a Lan family. I never said that the Lan family was in Fengbo country. Rather, it's an aristocratic family famous for being on the apex of cultivation, the Lan family. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart couldn't help but be shocked. As the family head in her past life, she knew very clearly just how powerful of a background it was to be most prestigious aristocratic cultivation family on the continent. According to reason, a direct descendant of such a family usually wouldn't go to such a small, unknown country like Fengbo. Moreover, her parents were being chased, making the possibility of them coming willingly almost zero. Watching Bailey Hongzhuang lower her head and think deeply, Chin's deep, ocean-like eyes flashed with intelligence. The fact that Bailey Hongzhuang possessed the jade pendant alone was enough to prove her connection with the Lan family. Otherwise, how could she even have the chance to hang it around her neck? Wife, do you have a relationship with the Lan family? Chin slowly asked, his handsome face unusually serious. Bailey Hongzhuang lifted her head. The moonlight was dim, specks of light falling on Chin's elegant and perfect face, letting her clearly see his appearance. After a long while, Bailey Hongzhuang spoke aloud. Can I trust you? Chin's eyes changed as his lips formed a quiet smile. You and I are husband and wife now. Of course you can trust me. Seeing how Chin was still speaking so flippantly, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't bother to talk to him again, turning around to leave. Chin caught her hand and suddenly pulled, reversing their positions so she was under him. It was just like before, but this time, he was even closer to her. I was saying the truth. Chin stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes gentle. You have to believe, no matter what, I won't ever do anything to hurt you. The words were spoken by Chin like an oath, firm and devoted. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes slowly changed. In that moment, she saw Chin's true dedication. The reason she asked this question was because although she and Chin's relationship was a bit messy, she still believed that he wouldn't harm her. Sometimes, there doesn't need to be any reason to have a heart-to-heart. If two people believe each other to be able to get along, then it counts as having gotten along. Whatever you want to say or ask, you can just talk frankly. Chin smiled. I won't tell anyone. A gentle smile blossomed on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Actually, I'm not a daughter of the Bailey family. Hearing her words, Chin's eyes that were usually still and tranquil like a lake suddenly became turbulent, the waves similar to a stormy sea. This was a possibility he hadn't ever thought of before. Earlier, he had already sent some people to search Bailey Hongzhuang's background, but still hadn't ever heard anything about this. He was very clear of his own abilities. If he still couldn't find out, then that's just how deeply guarded of a secret that was. Chapter 100. I found out when I left the general's household through my mother's diary. As for the jade pendant, my biological mother hung it on my neck before she left me. If you hadn't known about this jade pendant, I still never would have known what it represented. A Lan family daughter. That was the first thing Bewitching's mind came to. But after thinking about it, he knew that it was impossible. He was very clear what kind of a monster the Lan family was. How could the powerful Lan family let a child be dropped outside? How did the general's household wife take you? Bewitching asked again. Bailey Hongzhuang explained, clearly telling him everything she knew from her mother's diary. She also wanted to know more about her own life. Your whole body was covered in blood? Bewitching's handsome face frowned. The Lan family has always been strong. Even in the entire Shengshui continent, there were very few powers that could contend with them. It was impossible for a daughter of the Lan family to be reduced to such a state. But if not so, how could a Lan family jade token be on Bailey Hongzhuang's body? Suddenly, Bewitching's eyes flashed, suddenly recalling something. Wife, was it true that you couldn't cultivate? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, yes. So, what was the reason why you couldn't cultivate? While everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had a trash physique and couldn't cultivate, nobody knew if she was trash because of her body's constitution, if the meridians were damaged, or some other problem or not. Bailey Hongzhuang inspected Bewitching, sensing he knew something. Otherwise, he wouldn't suddenly be asking her this. My dantian was broken, Bailey Hongzhuang replied truthfully. When she had first found out, she had thought it was very strange. In this world, people usually became trash because there was a problem with their body's constitution or the meridians were blocked. A dantian could only be broken if the body was seriously injured. At that time, she was very young. It should have been almost impossible for someone to deal such a ruthless hand to her. Finally hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's reply, Bewitching's face suddenly changed, his normally calm face revealing shock. What does my broken dantian have to do with my history? The light in Bewitching's eyes sunk, slowly saying, I remember many years ago, the Lan family created a big stir. The most favored son of the Lan family head had betrayed the family, killing many of the family's members before leaving with his wife and daughter. Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. If such a thing really did happen in the Lan family, then could it be that? It impacted the Lan family greatly. Lan Yunxiao was the most promising candidate to become family head, so nobody could understand why he would suddenly turn his back on the Lan family. This was a secret the Lan family had deliberately kept hidden from the world. So many people only knew of the results, and not what actually had happened. You mean I could be that Lan Yunxiao's daughter? Bailey Hongzhuang asked aloud. Bewitching pondered. It's not impossible. Your jade pendant is a Lan family token, something that only direct descendants of the Lan family possess. It's impossible for it to fall into the hands of outsiders. My parents seemed like they were fleeing from something and was forced to leave me with the general's household. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. Was it the Lan family that killed my parents? Dantian, a place 2 points below the navel where Qi resides. Chapter 101. At that time, I was very young, so although I've heard about it, I had never really cared about it. That's why I don't really know much of the details. Bewitching sighed slightly. I'll send some people to search for news about what happened. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded a little, not refusing Bewitching's help. Thank you. Right now, she didn't have enough strength to even touch that level. If Bewitching helped, then she could learn a lot more. But Bewitching's heart was actually very heavy. If that was really Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, then wouldn't she become the entire Lan family's enemy? Although he and Bailey Hongzhuang haven't known each other for long, he was very clear about her temper. Once Bailey Hongzhuang confirms the face, she'll definitely choose to take revenge. By that time, he could only fear something tragic waiting to happen. The night passed without any more words. Bailey Hongzhuang was immersed in the information about the Lan family's jade pendant. Although she wasn't completely certain about the news, after hearing what happened in the Lan family, there was a small premonition in her heart. This was her origins. She believed that Lan Yunxiao would never turn his back on the Lan family for no reason whatsoever. Something must have happened that he couldn't bear patiently, making him choose to take his wife and daughter to leave the Lan family. Originally, She had thought that her parents were ordinary people. Even if they were being chased, there was still a chance of survival if they were lucky. Now she knew her parents were being chased by the Lan family. With how powerful the Lan family was, once they went all out, the possibility of them living is close to none. Even though she wasn't clear what happened so long ago, she could clearly imagine just how tragic it was. Dibei-chun also had a sleepless night. The shock of finding Bailey Hongzhuang's undeniable identity was simply too great. The surprise he had gotten when she told him he wasn't Bailey Jintao's biological daughter was nothing compared to the shock he felt from her actually being a Lan family daughter. The reason couldn't be simple. They got up early the next morning. Today, they needed to enter the royal palace to thank the emperor and empress's grace. Meanwhile, news about Prince Chen's marriage was circulated in the streets, and Bailey Jintao's bout of anger made everyone sigh with emotion. So it was General Bailey who chose to cut off all father-daughter ties to Princess Chen first. No wonder Bailey Hongzhuang had married from Qinzhuang Garden. I'm afraid that General Bailey's intestines are probably turning green from regret right now. He probably never thought that Princess Chen would be so amazing. In comparison, Bailey Yuyin simply can't even be compared to Princess Chen. What outstanding cultivational talent. She's just running a scam. The general's household became the juiciest gossip in the imperial city. From the start, many people were concerned for Bailey Hongzhuang's existence in the general's household. Now that the Bailey Hongzhuang's so powerful, the general's household naturally became the center of attention. I heard my young master say that Princess Chen's beauty was fully worthy of being the most beautiful woman in the imperial city. When Prince Chun was married yesterday, my family's young master got to attend the ceremony. Right. I also heard that Princess Chen was actually even more beautiful than the Prime Minister's daughter, Li Yue. It's reasonable to call Princess Chen the most beautiful woman in the imperial city. By the time Bailey Hongzhuang returned from the royal palace, the title of Most Beautiful Lady of the Imperial City was already pinned to her body. But Bailey Hongzhuang only wanted to sleep. I'll return to my room to rest. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't get a wink of sleep with Dibei-chun. From yesterday until now, she was more tired than she'd be after fighting a troop of people. Wifey, I also want to go back to the room and rest. Dibei-chun smiled brilliantly. Chapter 102. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and smiled. The room next door, please. Wifey, this is the room where we sleep together. Dibei-chin's eyes were limpid as he stared at Bailey Hongzhuang eagerly. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrow. Then, should I go sleep in the other room? Last night, she was played like a joke by this guy. She won't ever let something like that happen again. Never mind. It's better I go to the other room. Dibei-chin reluctantly let go, releasing his grip on the doorknob. Creak. Bailey Hongzhuang locked the door without hesitation. Her whole body was relaxed. Nevertheless, returning to her room was still the best. Dibei-chin looked at the door with a smile before turning and entering the room beside it. If Bailey Hongzhuang was there, she would see that the furnishings in the two rooms were nearly identical. Even before she married, Dibei-chin already had everything ready. Seeing Dibei-chin clap his hands, Heimu immediately appeared in the room and bowed. Lord, send someone to help me check out what happened with the Lan family's Lan Yunxiao. Make sure to be discreet. Don't let anyone know. Dibei-chin's voice was low, his handsome face revealing not the slightest bit of emotion. Heimu's face was doubtful when he heard Dibei-chin's words. They didn't have any connection with the Lan family, so why would his little lord suddenly think of investigating what happened with the Lan family? But after following him for so long, with just a glance at his little lord's face, he was very clearly that his little lord was very serious. He immediately went to action, not daring to tarry. I'll start now. After Heimu left, Dibei-chin's pupils shone with deep light. If this was all true, then how will Bailey Hongzhuang act? The Lan family was a great power Bailey Hongzhuang just couldn't even begin to compete with. His heart couldn't help but worry about her. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't rest and directly started to cultivate. At first, because the royal hunting feast was very soon, she wanted to increase her strength as much as possible, becoming an overnight hero, a dark horse. But since learning about the Lan family yesterday, her will to cultivate only intensified. In front of the Lan family, and such monsters, without enough strength, she didn't even have the right to speak. Since she's living a second life, she absolutely will not allow herself to leave any regrets. For everything, she needed strength. After 3 days, Bailey Hongzhuang prepared to go to Godly Doctor Square. Because of the marriage, she didn't go to Godly Doctor Square for 3 whole days. Now, it was time for her to return. But just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave, Dibei Chin's voice rang out behind her. Is wifey going to Godly Doctor Square? Bailey Hongzhuang turned to see Dibei Chen sitting in his wheelchair outside the house, a faint smile currently on his face as he looked at her. Right. Dibei Chen came to Bailey Hongzhuang's side, smiling quietly. Wifey, the weather's good today. Shall we go for a walk together? Hearing his words, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned, confused. Knowing Dibei Chin's personality, he wouldn't be the type to like window shopping. Why would he suddenly ask her to go on a walk? In any case, wifey is now Princess Chin. Usually, the clothes you wear are always very simple and neat, so it'd be better to buy some new ones. Even if you don't want to wear it every day, just at least wear it when we visit the royal palace. What do you think? Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. No matter what, she was now one of Prince Chin's people and represented his honor. For Prince Chin's face, it indeed wouldn't be appropriate for her to attend any gatherings with such plain clothing. Okay, Bailey Hongzhuang agreed. Princess Chun is truly worthy of being the #1 beauty of the imperial city. Each and every move is just simply beautiful to the extreme. Dibei Chen smiled as he listened to everyone talk, a long, slanted eyebrow raising. #1 beauty of the imperial city? Prince probably doesn't know, but right now, everyone calls Princess Chun the #1 beauty of the imperial city. He Mu's face revealed pride as he reported, before, the title as the #1 beauty of the imperial city used to linger between Bailey Yuyan and Li Yuyue, but since Princess showed her face, this title fell on her head undisputed. Bailey Hongzhuang had also heard about this when she was chatting with Dong Sairu, but hadn't actually thought it was a real title that actually fell on her body. Those people were just too bored. Dibei Chen looked at the calm Bailey Hongzhuang standing at his side. Broken fragments of gold-like sunlight were sprinkled on her body, covering her in a golden luster. Even without the use of makeup, her face was just as clear and attractive. Each and every move contained a certain elegance, a unique grace to it. The #1 beauty of the imperial city. Not just in name only, but also in reality. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled, gazing at Dibei Chen to see the warm smile on his face. His praise was completely sincere. Will being the #1 beauty of the imperial city give you food to eat? It's only good to listen to. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke indifferently. She didn't care one bit for such a title with only false reputation. Nikhang Market was a top-notch clothing store in the imperial city. Whether it was a merchant's miss or official's miss, they all loved to come here and buy clothing. Even though the prices were far from ordinary clothing stores, its business was still exceptionally rich. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Dibei Chen arrived at Nikhang Market, the whole store seemed to turn quiet for an instant. They didn't expect for the winds to blow straight, letting Prince and Princess Chun visit their shop today. This time, the emperor went in person to the prince's palace, signifying that Prince Chin's position rose somewhat. At the very least, it meant that Prince Chun still held a certain place in the emperor's heart, or he never even would have bothered to attend the wedding. Even though usually Dibei Chen was often bullied, that was only by the crown prince. Only princes in this generation dared to do so. Other people wouldn't even dare. Nikhang Market's lady proprietress, Wei Nikhang, immediately came over and welcomed them. Prince Chun, Princess Chun, it's an honor to be in your presence. It seems like Prince Chin must have come to buy Princess Chin some garments. This was Wei Nichang's first time meeting Prince and Princess Chen. Although Prince Chen was sitting in a wheelchair, his back was perfectly straight, and you couldn't see the slightest bit of depression. His handsome appearance naturally needed no words, his character exuding a certain grace that would make one gasp in admiration. She felt that the way this Prince Chen was completely different from Prince Chun that was always getting bullied in the rumors. The aura he emitted and the mannerisms he displayed could be in no way compared to regular people. Only, it was truly a shame that he was crippled. Dibei Chun smiled faintly, right? Wifey, Do you see any clothes you like? Bei Chin's voice was gentle, gazing at Bailey Hongzhuang's face like his beloved treasure. Lady Proprietress must be very busy with her own things. We can just look around on our own. Hearing his words, Wei Nikhang bowed. Well, if Prince or Princess requires my aid, feel free to give me a shout any time. The peace in Nikhang Market was restored. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the store filled with clothes. Whether it was material or workmanship, they were all first class. With such quality, it was no surprise that Nikhang Market was so popular. Chapter 104. At this time, a figure sudden appeared in Nikhang Market. It was the Prime Minister's daughter, the current Crown Princess, Li Yuyue. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang also in Nikhang Market, Li Yuyue's eyes couldn't help but stiffen. Her face revealed traces of disgust. Bailey Hongzhuang picked through the clothes. Although her favorite color was a plain and simple white, since she became Princess Chen, in the future, she'll have to go to the palace often. If she was dressed completely in white every time she visited, it wouldn't be quite appropriate, so she had to choose a few other colors. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes sharpened, landing on a white dress. The dress was as white as snow, embellished with designs of blooming peach flowers. It wasn't overly fancy or complicated, but instead felt bright and fresh. Thinking about the peach blossoms in Qinzhuang Garden, a trace of a smile spread on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. This was the dress she liked most. A slender arm fell on the dress just as Bailey Hongzhuang picked it up. Lifting her head, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the woman, confused only to see Li Yue's face, looking at her disdainfully. This dress, I want it. Opening her mouth, Li Yue's voice was domineering, not allowing Bailey Hongzhuang to speak a single word. An utterly enchanting smile formed from the corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips. Miss Li, the dress seemed to be in this princess's hands first, and is thus mine. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang dare to refute her, Li Yue's complexion ashened. I said I wanted this dress, so it's mine. I never knew Miss Li was actually so overbearing. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was still clear and gentle. Only, your overbearing attitude means nothing to me. Her right hand slightly forceful, Bailey Hongzhuang directly pulled the dress into her arms. This woman was just too arrogant choosing her target. She, Bailey Hongzhuang, was never one easy to be bullied. Bailey Hongzhuang. Li Yue raised her voice. I am the majestic crown princess, daring to offend me? Do you want to die? Haha. Bailey Hongzhuang laughed softly, but the light in her eyes began to grow cold. Miss Li, you still haven't married the crown prince. Right now, you're only the future crown princess. Aren't you just anxious to get married? It's still better for Miss to rely on her family. Bailey Hongzhuang played it down as she looked at Li Yue, the meaning in her words clear. Li Yue was startled and didn't expect for Bailey Hongzhuang to actually say such a thing, that she and the crown prince still hadn't married, making her only the future crown princess. By just looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's haughty appearance, her heart couldn't help but burst with anger. At first, when Bailey Yuyan was disfigured, she became the #1 beauty of the imperial city. But she never expected for Bailey Hongzhuang to appear and steal her title. It was just too hateful. Even if she used to only have hatred with Bailey Yuyan and had no relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang, now she felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was even more hateful than Bailey Yuyan. In any case, I am the future crown princess while you are no more than a small princess. To dare to challenge me, do you actually still believe His Highness, the crown prince, will look for you to treat him? TL note. In Chinese, crown princess is Tai Fei, whereas princess is just Wang Fei. It makes the comparison much more obvious. Right now, Li Yue could only think about beating down Bailey Hongzhuang. For the past 2 days since her title as the #1 beauty of the imperial city was robbed, she could feel everyone look at her with different eyes, and the highborn women she didn't get along with often came to mock her. Today her mood wasn't very good, so she decided to come to Jichang Market and buy some clothes to improve her spirit. But she didn't expect to meet enemies on a narrow road, the woman who put her in such a bad temper, Bailey Hongzhuang. Princess is changed to Wang Fei. Chapter 105. Taking this opportunity, no matter which method she uses to beat Bailey Hongzhuang, she'll definitely teach her just who is the phoenix and who is the pheasant. Miss Li, you said it yourself, You're only the future crown princess. When you get married, come back and say those words to me again. Bailey Hongzhuang's pace was steady as walked over to the front side, still holding on to the dress. She still wanted to look at the other clothes in Jichang Market. Bailey Hongzhunag, you're going overboard. Li Yuyue shouted, stomping her foot. She really couldn't understand. Bailey Hongzhuang clearly only married a crippled prince. How could she be so arrogant? Everybody thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be unhappy and depressed, but Bailey Hongzhuang was still as proud and arrogant as ever, completely defying everybody's expectations. Miss Li, even if you're happy shouting abuse in the streets like a shrew, I am not the same. Li Yuyue's face turned ugly when she heard her remark. Bailey Hongzhuang actually called her a shrew? The future crown princess, a shrew? Li Yuyue and Bailey Hongzhuang's argument attracted many people's attention. Usually, for people who come to Jichang Market, they all held a certain level of status. When everybody saw Li Yuyue and Bailey Hongzhuang confronting each other, they knew it was going to get interesting. Many of them knew that Li Yuyue had been sulking in Prime Minister's mansion for the past few days when her title of #1 beauty in the imperial city was taken by Bailey Hongzhuang. Now watching Bailey Hongzhuang and Li Yuyue cross swords, their hearts secretly praised Bailey Hongzhuang. Chun Wangfei's mouth was truly sharp. Li Yuyue couldn't even fight back, especially the tone of her voice and stance. She and Li Yuyue simply couldn't even be compared on the same level. Li Yuyue was clearly the one who took the initiative to look for trouble with Bailey Hongzhuang, but it was Bailey Hongzhuang who was teaching her a lesson. Look, Li Yuyue's face is green, because when she became the future crown princess, she turned as proud as a peacock. She was just itching to flaunt her marriage with the crown prince. I think it's disgusting. Chun Wangfei is truly unusual. This time, Li Yuyue could be said to have met a brick wall. Everyone in the crowd held the same feeling of watching a play. Normally, it was rare to see such amazing drama, and they all were looking forward to seeing how it would play out. Li Yuyue walked up to Bailey Hongzhuang in large strides, her beautiful face cold. Her arrogant air couldn't be hidden. Bailey Hongzhuang, if you won't leave this dress behind today, you'll never leave Jichang Market's doors. So many people were watching in Jichang Market. If today she lost face, how could she show her face to anyone again? Are you threatening this prince's wife? A magnetic, deep voice suddenly sounded, but the tone was cold and gloomy. Li Yuyue couldn't help but be startled, discovering Dibei Chen's gaze landing on her body. She didn't expect for Dibei Chen to suddenly speak now, and couldn't help but feel somewhat embarrassed. But Li Yuyue quickly recovered her haughty appearance. Right? And if she doesn't apologize to me right here and now, I absolutely will not allow her to leave here tonight. Opening her mouth, Li Yuyue actually dragged Dibei Chen in. She was very clear on Dibei Chen's status and knew that he only a prince in name. Before, His Highness, the crown prince could bully this guy happily, so how could she be afraid of such a fellow? Just a prime minister's daughter is actually so arrogant. I never saw someone so lacking in manners. Today, this prince has opened his eyes. Bin Wang, this Prince Wangya prince hearing that, Li Yue's face suddenly changed. Who do you think you're talking to? How dare you reproach me? Dibei Chen's handsome eyebrows twitched. His lips that had curled up into a grin slowly turned cold. Reproach you? You think you're worthy? Daring to threaten my woman? I'll surely make you regret it. Dibei Chen's eyes were cold, his low voice echoing with a cold threat. An imposing aura suddenly erupted from his body. Li Yuyue's whole body shivered with fright as she backed off. Under Dibei Chen's terrifying aura, she felt like she couldn't even control her own body. Li Yuyue looked at him with fear. How could she have not known Dibei Chen's strength was actually so powerful? Moreover, his unexpected tone of speech and his domineering attitude simply left one unable to speak back. You, if you dare to injure me, His Highness, the crown prince won't let you off. Li Yuyue trembled as she shouted. Looking at his matchless cold eyes, Li Yuyue for the first time felt fear down to the very bottom of her heart. Whoever dares to threaten Bin Wang's wife, Bin Wang also won't let that reckless person off. His words made Li Yuyue's heart turn cold. Dibei Chen was actually so protective of Bailey Hongzhuang. The crowd surrounding them stared blankly in shock. For a long time, Prince Chun had been known for being easy to bully. But no one expected that Prince Chin's anger would actually be so terrible. But most importantly, Prince Chun had actually become an eager wife protector. So the rumors weren't fake, and Prince Chin truly was in love with Bailey Hongzhuang. Whether it was the betrothal gifts or not giving any face to General Bailey on the wedding day, it was all enough to prove Bailey Hongzhuang's position in Dibei Chen's heart. Li Yue had actually bullied Bailey Hongzhuang right in front of his face. Prince Chen was furious. Seeing this desperate situation, Wei Nikhang came running hurriedly. It didn't matter who those two were, but if she didn't intervene now, her entire Nikhang market could crumble down completely. Prince Chun, Miss Li's words were only said in a moment of impulse. You shouldn't let Miss Li's words bother you. Wei Nichang's face was filled with smiles, but her heart was secretly in chaos. Ever since Prince Chen recognized Qin Wangfei as thus, to say the least, his temperament had changed to a certain extent. This Qin Wangfei was truly had some ability. Bailey Hongzhuang also muttered something now. Li Yue, if you want to complain, do it after you choose a partner. Bailey Hongzhuang had many ways to send Li Yue packing, but it must be carried out in secret. Confronting her directly in public would only lead to a bad outcome. Wang Ye, it's only a waste of energy to be mad at her. Bailey Hongzhuang laughed indifferently. Dibei Chen's cold face eased a little bit. Since Wang Fei said so, Bin Wang will drop the subject early. If you dare to invite a snub or court a rebuff, Bin Wang will make you regret not treasuring this chance. Watching Dibei Chen withdrawing his aura, Li Yue's whole body fell weakly. Her back was covered in cold sweat. Wang Ye, can you go wait for me outside? I still have a few words to speak of with Miss Li, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Dibei Chen nodded, and Heimu immediately took the white dress Bailey Hongzhuang had in her hands and paid for it before directly walking out of Jichang Square. After waiting for Dibei Chen to leave, Li Yue stared scornfully at Bailey Hongzhuang. I never thought you were so good at seducing men. Not just Dibei Chen, even His Highness, the Crown Prince, was one of Bailey Hongzhuang's admirers. Since the day he had wanted to marry Bailey Hongzhuang in the drafting feast, she had always been a wound in her heart. She thought Bailey Hongzhuang would have been furious, but Bailey Hongzhuang only curled her lips into a smile. Thank you for your praise. Chapter 107. Li Yue sucked in a cold breath. How could this woman's reply be so strange? I'm in a good mood today and don't want to bother with you. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. I only want to offer Miss Li a little piece of advice. You shouldn't speak so early. Remember, at that time, I was also the future crown princess. Her voice dropping, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer stayed behind, leaving Nikhang Market without another word. Watching her slender figure slowly walking into the distance, Li Yue unexpectedly couldn't say even a word. She knew clearly what Bailey Hongzhuang was implying. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang was the future crown princess, but now there was no such engagement. Bailey Hongzhuang was reminding her before she truly became the crown princess, anything could happen. Walking out of Nikhang Market, Bailey Hongzhuang easily spotted Dibei Chen, standing not so far away as he waited for her. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang come out, the corner of Dibei Chen's mouth curled up into a smile. Is the matter settled? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head slightly. Li Yue's provocative actions, it was only natural for her to want to teach Li Yue a lesson. The reason why she stayed behind to leave Li Yue those few last words of parting wasn't because she wanted to warn her, but to make her restrict her own actions. She, Bailey Hongzhuang, wasn't a person who had a big heart. Why are you so generous today? This dress was pretty expensive. Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow, looking at Dibei Chen doubtfully. While she was choosing the dress, she clearly saw just how expensive the price was. When she asked Dibei Chen that time for 100 gold coins, this guy couldn't afford that. Dibei Chen blinked, acting bashful as he gazed at Bailey Hongzhuang. A man's money should be kept for their wife. Since you didn't agree, I didn't give you the gold coins. But this time, it's different because you're already one of my people. The expenses will naturally be covered by your hubby with the marriage contract. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth slowly curled up. Although she knew the guy was only making stuff up, it was still very pleasing to listen to. The next moment, Dibei Chen took out a black coin card and handed it to Bailey Hongzhuang. From now on, just use the money on this card. Tianxiang Trading Company could be found everywhere in the Shaanxian continent. Many people stored their money with the company, finding it very convenient. Bailey Hongzhuang earned a lot of money through Godly Doctor Square, but still only possessed a silver Tianxiang Trading Company card. Bewitching actually had a black one. Tianxiang Trading Company's coin cards were divided into 4 grades: green cards, silver cards, gold cards, and black cards. Even if you scoured the entire Fengbo country, you still wouldn't be able to find a single black card holder. Because Tianxiang Trading Company was used all around the entire Shaanxue continent, it needs not to be mentioned the astronomical amount of wealth needed to get a black card. But Dibei-chan actually owned such a card. So Dibei-chan was never a poor ghost, but was actually very rich. My own money is enough. You can keep the card yourself, Bailey Hongzhuang replied. Dibei-chan's behavior earlier had given her a misunderstanding. This amount of money was indeed something that could only be shared between husband and wife. Take it. Right now it's better for you to focus on cultivating or refining your inner energy. Dibei-chan said, in my opinion, it might be better for you to temporarily close your Godly Doctor Square to focus wholeheartedly on cultivation. For the better. Why? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Dibei-chan smiled. Wifey, no matter the outcome, right now you're the Chen Wang Fei. If you show your face out in public while treating people, it wouldn't be pleasant to hear. You care about that? Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. Because of Dibei-chan's nature, it was simply unlikely for him to care about such things. Chapter 108. Never mind. Dibei-chan shook his head. It's just that it's almost time for the royal family's hunting feast. If you can get a good ranking in the hunting competition, it'd be very advantageous for you. Hearing Dibei-chan's words, Bailey Hongzhuang instantly understood his plan and immediately nodded. Then I'll close Godly Doctor Square for now. If her guess was right, then Dibei-chan probably also thinks that it's rather likely for her to be Lan Yunxiao's daughter. If she wanted to face the entire Lan family, there was no time to waste on running Godly Doctor Square. Bailey Hongzhuang temporarily closed Godly Doctor Square, but left the immortality pills for sale, then returned to the prince's palace to quietly cultivate. There was only half a month before the hunting feast would start. She needed to grow her strength as soon as possible. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang directly entered the room next door, trying to find Dibei-chan. Dibei-chan, do you know any places in the imperial city that are good for cultivation, like a waterfall or something? After thinking about yesterday, she believed that staying in the house would only raise her cultivation, but wouldn't strengthen the flesh. In her previous life, since young she was soaked in all sorts of medicinal and herbal baths, making her physique very powerful. Unfortunately, it was very different in this life. Bailey Hongzhuang's body wasn't at all stronger than others, and because of malnutrition, her constitution was even weaker than most other people. Even if she was cultivating now, she was still incapable of using her full power because her foundation, her body, was too shaky. Since it was like this, Bailey Hongzhuang chose to leave the palace to cultivate outside. Only by improving her physique can her true fighting strength come out. Furthermore, cultivating the body can also bring her great benefits. By taking advantage of her young age to lay a solid foundation, cultivating in the future would become much easier. Dibei-chan instantly understood what Bailey Hongzhuang meant, his heart secretly astonished. He already understood that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't Bailey Jintao's daughter, but Bailey Hongzhuang's changes truly weren't small. The overwhelming majority of cultivators only paid attention to their upgrading their cultivation and completely ignored improving their physique. Especially cultivators in the younger generation, who simply had no clue of just how important strengthening the body was. Only some of the world's strongest powers would urge the importance of improving your physique when training the younger generation. This problem with cultivation wasn't very obvious in the beginning, but grows more and more obvious as someone's cultivation reached the late stage. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang was a Lan family daughter, she only found out a few days ago, so how could she have known about the importance of improving your physique? It seems that Bailey Hongzhuang was even more mysterious than him. There's a small mountain not far outside the imperial city. Inside there exists a waterfall, Dibei-chan answered. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up, her lips loosening into a gentle smile. Really? Can you tell me exactly where? You intend to go there alone? Bewitching asked. Even though it isn't too far from the imperial city, there's no shortage of demons and beasts roaming about. Going there alone to strengthen your body is too dangerous. It doesn't matter. I know my limits. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth curled up into a smile, her expression unusually staunch. In her previous life, she had often gone out to cultivate alone. Who knew how many dangerous experiences she had back then? But one thing was for sure, she was very experienced. Even if she didn't have much strength now, she still believed she would be able to return back safe and sound. I'll accompany you. We'll go together. Bewitching's voice was indifferent, but his tone revealed his certainty on his decision. He would not change his mind. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. I'm going there to cultivate. If you come with me, how will I ever feel a sense of danger? You can rest assured. Unless it's life-threatening and you're about to die, I won't act. Bewitching smiled. You're my beloved wifey. If you run into danger, what will I do? Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. How will you come with me then? Where the wife is, the husband is there. Not waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to reply, Bewitching immediately continued. I already sent some people to prepare, to take you and me, us two people together to go out on an outing. This also shows our sincere feelings between the two of us as husband and wife. Bewitching. Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth twitched. Bewitching didn't seem to hear her shout, leaving without another word. Master, I think Bewitching is just worried for you. It's better to just let him come. Little White said slowly. Right now, Bailey Hongzhuang was only on the border of late stage. She could be considered pretty good in the younger generation. Only in Shangxian continent, demonic beasts could move unhindered. If she by some chance encountered a demonic beast stronger than her, Bailey Hongzhuang would be in a lot of danger. Little Black followed, nodding his head. Bewitching just hates to part with Master. There's no harm if he comes as well. Bailey Hongzhuang's face revealed helplessness. Just as Little Black and Little White said, there's nothing wrong with bringing Bewitching along too. In the Shangxian continent, aside from humans, there were also species of demonic beasts who could cultivate. A high-level demonic beast was very powerful. Compared the weak body of a human's, demonic beasts were very strong. As a result, humans were often the ones at a disadvantage when fighting the demonic beasts. Furthermore, a demonic beast's reproduction speed was far faster than a human's. However, a demonic beast generally wasn't smart. Humans could create all kinds of cultivation manuals and merit laws, or martial skills to increase their fighting strength. The demonic beasts could only rely on their own strength, which was why the scales between the humans and beasts were always kept in check. A demonic beast's pelt could be used as leather. Blood, eyes, and so on could all be used as pill ingredients. To mankind, it could even be said that demonic beasts from head to toe were living treasures. Therefore, there were many cultivators who relied on hunting demonic beasts for a livelihood. So long as they killed a demonic beast, they would be able to sell its body for massive amounts of money. Bewitching moved quickly. He was very clear that with Bailey Hongzhuang's current situation, the earlier she can cultivate, the better. Ordering a few men, he and Bailey Hongzhuang got on the carriage to leave the imperial city. News of Prince Chen and Qin Wangfei going out on an outing together was leaked from Prince Chen's palace. Everyone admired the deep affection between Prince Chen and Qin Wangfei very much. Together with how he protected his wife, Bailey Hongzhuang had become the target of envy for many. Even if both of Prince Chen's legs were crippled, he was still very favored. Together with his handsomeness, all questions could be ignored. Hearing the news, Bailey Yuyan ground her teeth. Really, as she guessed, Bewitching pampered Bailey Hongzhuang very much. She just couldn't understand. Why would Bewitching treasure Bailey Hongzhuang? Such trash. A woman who'd already been married and divorced. So much? But just as Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang left the imperial city, an earth-shaking scream sounded from the Prime Minister's house. The people in the Prime Minister's mansion were all attracted by the scream. It was the first time Prime Minister Li Chengqian and his wife Zhao Wenxiang heard Li Yuyue cry out like that. They both hastily ran to Li Yuyue's room. Note, in this sentence, even if both of Prince Chen's legs were crippled, he was still very favored. Together with his handsomeness, all questions could be ignored. Chapter 110. The two's hearts were very anxious. Yesterday, Li Yuyue came back home in low spirits, and nothing they said could comfort her. Li Chengqian also hated Di Bei-chun, but Li Yuyue truly acted without any thought yesterday. He couldn't just go up to Prince Chen and start to argue with him. He could only wait for an even better chance for him to step on Prince Chen underfoot. But today, Li Yuyue suddenly screamed first thing in the morning. Could something have happened again? When Li Yuyue went to sleep last night, she felt her face was a little itchy. After scratching it a little, she no longer cared. She never thought that when she got up in the morning to dress and look into the mirror, she would see her face was completely covered in freckles. Densely packed freckles covered both sides of her nose, making her original, peerlessly beautiful face ugly. She immediately started washing her face, but no matter how she cleaned, the freckles were deeply rooted in her face. It was just impossible to wash out. How could this be? Li Yuyue stroked her face, frightened. How did my face become like this overnight? Li Yuyue was still immersed in shock. She simply couldn't believe it was happening, that it was a dream. Her face that she was so proud of. When Li Chengqian and Zhao Wenxiang arrived at her room to see such a messy scene, the servant girls all stood to the side, not daring to speak. Yue, what happened to you? Zhao Wenxiang asked. She was very clear of her daughter's temperament, who was always pampered and never lacked anything. Unless someone provoked Li Yuyue, there was no way she'd be screaming first thing in the morning. Mother! Li Yuyue turned around, covered in tears, to look at Zhao Wenxiang standing behind. When seeing how Li Yuyue's beautiful face was covered in tears, Zhao Wenxiang was overwhelmed by compassion, and after a more careful look, she suddenly noticed the change that had happened on Li Yuyue's face and could only stare blankly at her. Yue, what happened to your face? Li Yuyue shook her head, grieved. I don't know. When I woke up this morning, it had already become like this. What can I do? She recalled Bailey Hongzhuang's words from yesterday. Before she's actually married, anything could happen. Now with her face like this, how could His Highness, the Crown Prince, still want to marry her? Li Chengqian's face also changed. His daughter may become the empress, but if her appearance was like this, how could she go out and see other people? Hurry up and bring a doctor. Li Chengqian waved his hand strongly, ordering the servant. Yes. The servant immediately seized the opportunity and withdrew, going back to the mansion to try and find a doctor. Li Chengqian and Zhao Wenxiang cautiously inspected Li Yuyue's face full of freckles. The densely packed freckles were simply enough to make anyone feel disgusted after a single glance. Where was her usually beautiful appearance? How could your perfectly good face have turned into this without any cause or reason? Zhao Wenxiang made a flustered look. The day of the wedding with the crown prince wasn't that far away. Once the news got out, their prime minister's prefecture would only become a huge joke. After many tries, Zhao Wenxiang and Li Yuyue concluded that those freckles would stay on Li Yuyue's face for some time. They were basically impossible to get rid of. After a long time, Li Chengqian finally spoke. Who did you meet between yesterday and today? Li Yuyue sobbed. There wasn't anyone. Apart from the fight with Bailey Hongzhuang outside, there wasn't any people. Hearing her words, Li Chengqian's face couldn't help but change slightly. Don't tell me this has something to do with Bailey Hongzhuang? When Bailey Yuyin was disfigured, nobody knew why or how it happened. But Bailey Yuyin's and Bailey Hongzhuang's longtime grudge was something everybody knew. Chapter 111. In the past, Li Yuyue had always lived without any burdens or hardship apart from yesterday's confrontation with Bailey Hongzhuang. Now today, her face had changed like this. It was just too much of a coincidence. Li Yuyue was startled, but she didn't want to think about it. All she wanted was a reason to pin all of this on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. That's right, it must be Bailey Hongzhuang. Li Yuyue repeatedly nodded her head. Father, you must give me justice. Rest assured, if this was truly done by Bailey Hongzhuang, I'll definitely make her pay the price. Li Chengqian's face was gloomy as he spoke. What kind of status did he have? Daring to move against his daughter, Bailey Hongzhuang must be tired of living. The doctor soon came. After examining Li Yuyue's face, he shook his head. I'm truly sorry. My humble self is unable to tell the cause of Miss Li's sudden freckles. This detonation is something I've never heard about. There's no way at all. Li Chengqian was unwilling to give up hope. If Li Yue's face stayed like this forever, how could she go out and greet other people? In my opinion, this kind of situation is only something godly Dr. Square's Lady Bailey could cure. With other doctors, I'm afraid the chances of curing Miss Li is minimal. The three's faces all turned ugly. Now, they all suspected this was Bailey Hongzhuang's doing. If they went and asked Bailey Hongzhuang for such a favor, wouldn't it be just like a joke? After the doctor left, Li Chengqian once again invited several other doctors to take a look. But in the end, everyone's conclusion was the same as the first doctor's. Apart from Bailey Hongzhuang, no one else could cure it. Lord, I think we should try and ask Bailey Hongzhuang for a favor. As long as Lord wishes it, I believe Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely give us face. Zhao Wenxiang pondered. Li Yue objected immediately. Go ask that woman for help? Why should we? She was still thinking how they would bring Bailey Hongzhuang to the threshing floor. If she asked Bailey Hongzhuang for help now, Li Yue was afraid that she'd never have the chance to bring her to the threshing floor in this lifetime. Zhao Wenxiang frowned elegantly, her voice holding a trace of blame. Yue, Bailey Hongzhuang isn't important enough for you to be so angry over. You think a little. As long as you become the crown princess, how would there be any lack of opportunities to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang as the empress? Li Chengqian nodded slightly. Your mother's words are right. We'll handle it like this. Seeing Li Chengqian and Zhao Wenxiang's firm resolution, Li Yue had to agree with them no matter how discontent she was. After all, it was of the utmost importance to protect her face. However, the person Li Chengqian sent to godly Dr. Square to ask for an appointment with Bailey Hongzhuang had to find out that the square was temporarily closed. The reason being that, as surprising as it may be, Prince Qin and Princess Qin had gone on a trip to the mountains. He also sent some people to the prince's palace to ask for their whereabouts, but was only told that they didn't know when Prince Qin and Chen Wangfei would return. The news caught the Li family unprepared. Bailey Hongzhuang left at such a crucial time. Was there really no way left? In comparison to the Li family's disaster, Bailey Hongzhuang and Dibei Chun were actually very comfortable. He Mu drew the carriage outside as Bailey Hongzhuang and Dibei Chin's eyes glanced over the busy roads and sceneries through the carriage's windows. Now that we left the imperial city, there isn't any more need for you to act, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. For an ordinary person, acting as a cripple all day would feel extremely uncomfortable. Dibei Chun smiled faintly. If we run into someone inside the mountain range, our identity would definitely be exposed. For that reason, it was still necessary to continue to be a cripple. If they were to find any clues, acting so long all would have been for naught. He had endured so much just to finally get a lead on the information. Since he could stand up again, why should he continue to hide? Now, it wouldn't be long before he could stand proudly in front of everybody again. Suddenly, a sly smile appeared in the corner of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Would it be better for me to help you change your appearance? Dibei Chen raised an eyebrow. You can even change faces? Traveling in Jianghu, the technique of changing faces were essential tricks to learn. But although most ordinary face-changing techniques were very easy to see through, it was still better than nothing. As for true face-changing techniques, it could even be said that they've long died out. It was said that 1,000 years ago, face-changing techniques were capable of creating a fake face that could be easily passed off as real. Only, it's a pity that there were none left. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head slightly. I have a face-changing technique that's incomparable to other ordinary ones. I guarantee you'll be surprised. Since you said it's so amazing, you can test it on me. Dibei Chin's eyes had a spoiling light to it. He had clearly seen the crafty look in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. It's very likely that this girl had a bad idea in store for him. After telling Dibei Chen to close his eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang began to change Dibei Chin's face. Such a handsome face, she might as well disguise it nicely. Master, Dibei Chin's beautiful face was completely destroyed by you. Looking at the new face Bailey Hongzhuang made, Little Black couldn't bear it and covered his eyes. This was simply something you couldn't look at. Little White's mouth twitched and secretly decided in his heart. He could offend anyone else, but he mustn't offend the master. Master still hasn't forgotten how Dibei Chun had bullied her on the wedding night. Just a look at Dibei Chin's destroyed face, and you would know just how much anger Bailey Hongzhuang truly harbored in her heart. After a long time, Bailey Hongzhuang finally clapped her hands and smiled. All done? Perfect. Dibei Chin opened his eyes. Seeing the bright grin on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, a smile bloomed on his lips. Take a look. Is my drawing skills good? A wide grin split Bailey Hongzhuang's face as she handed Dibei Chun the mirror. Taking the mirror, Dibei Chun stared at the completely different man in the mirror. His smile froze. He could only see an astonished man with a big, boorish face. A big beard ran across his face, and a huge mole sat right by his lip. The face I made for you isn't bad. With this, I guarantee even if we meet somebody, it'd impossible for them to recognize you. Although Dibei Chin's changed face showed helplessness, looking at the completely different man in the mirror, stormy waves appeared inside his black pupils. This face-changing technique was absolutely the best he had ever seen. If his mind wasn't clear, he wouldn't even be able to believe that this was actually his face. Wife's face-changing technique is naturally excellent, but I don't know what other people will think when they see such a large, rough man marrying such a beauty like you. Their faces would probably turn green with envy. Dibei Chin's uncouth face laughed, one hand resting on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. His boorish appearance released a bold and unconstrained air around him. For some inexplicable reason, when she looked at Dibei Chin looking like that, a bad premonition rose in her mind. After some time, Bailey Hongzhuang and company, probably needs to be changed, arrived at their destination. Wang Fei, we're finally at the waterfall. Heimu called from outside the carriage. Bailey Hongzhuang and Dibei Chun slowly walked out of the carriage together. Heimu's eyes widened as he stared at the rough, unfamiliar face and couldn't help but ask, stunned, who is he? Chapter 113. During this entire journey, how could he have not noticed another man on the carriage at all? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were full of smiles. Dibei Chin helplessly spoke. Heimu. Hearing that familiar voice, Heimu looked at Dibei Chun in disbelief. Wangya, is that you? Correct. This Wang Fei used a face-changing technique. Seeing how certain Bailey Hongzhuang was about it, Heimu was unable to suppress a grin. His matchlessly elegant and handsome young lord, now a countryside brute. It was just too funny. Go ahead if you want to laugh. It'd be bad if you end up choky, Dibei Chun said faintly. Fta. Heimu laughed his head off as he looked at Dibei Chin's face. Haha, it's really just too ridiculous. Wangya is truly the most ugly, haha. Ugly. Seeing Heimu laughing until tears came out, Dibei Chin's eyes sunk as he opened his mouth indifferently. Wifey, Heimu follows me all year around. If we want to hide my identity, his face should also be changed. As for his changed face to match mine, it should be just as ugly. Heimu stopped, startled. Such an interesting face, he really didn't want. Wangya, it was my mistake. A magnanimous person does not remember offenses committed by ones of low moral stature. Forgive me just this once. Wangya, I won't laugh at you again. Wang Fei, please start off leniently. In the end, Bailey Hongzhuang and Dibei Chun completely ignored Heimu's pleas. Heimu's face was directly changed to a big, ugly, brutish man. Dibei Chin's originally tragic appearance compared to Heimu's face actually looked pretty good. Heimu felt wronged as he looked at Dibei Chun and Bailey Hongzhuang sullenly. This couple were just villains colluding together. Bullying a honest, sincere man like this, truly too cruel. A huge valley appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. The green trees melded into the forest, creating a beautiful scene. Hong Long Glong. SFX. Rumbling. The waterfall scoured down. Its sound clear yet terrifying. Just hearing the noise, Bailey Hongzhuang could clearly tell that this waterfall wasn't small at all. The steam danced in the air. The day was bright and sunny without a cloud in the sky. The stifled feeling inside the carriage relaxed as they all got up. Wifey, do you like it here? Dibei Chin asked, smiling. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head, pleased. Very good. It's even better than I imagined. Wifey satisfied. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head to look at the two big, dark-skinned men by her side and said, "I'm going to go and cultivate under the waterfall now. You two are free to do as you like." Her words done, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer paid any attention to Dibei Chen and Heimu. She planned to come alone from the beginning. Those two guys that came along had nothing to do with her. Watching Bailey Hongzhuang's figure slowly walking farther and farther away, Heimu looked at Dibei Chun, puzzled. "Little Lord, Wang Fei wanted to come here just to cultivate? Other than cultivate, what else could she do? Then what are we here for?" "To relieve our boredom." Heimu rolled his eyes. "Little Lord, the scenery here isn't bad. We'll cultivate here as well." "Okay." Heimu was helpless. He finally understood his little lord only came here to protect Bailey Hongzhuang. Never did he think that he and his little lord would ever become a guard. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to the waterfall, staring at 33-meter-high rapids. Her eyes twinkled with complex lights. Right now this body was far too weak and could only be improved through training. But with such a huge waterfall, if she stood directly under it to cultivate, the process would be just too bitter. Chapter 114 Master, this waterfall is too big for you right now. Your strength can only barely support it. Little White's voice sunk. On the road of cultivation, there was always a certain range of risk. But if it was too dangerous, it was always best to be more cautious. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment. From her experience, although cultivating here held a strong degree of danger, it still wouldn't kill her. As for injuries and the like, since she embarked on the road to cultivation, wounds were simply unavoidable. After fixing her mind, Bailey Hongzhuang walked firmly under the waterfall. The heavy sounds of water crashing down filled her ears, her clothing immediately drenched completely. It was currently spring. The water was still icy cold to the touch, and Bailey Hongzhuang's face became somewhat pale because of the chilliness. "Master, we can't go inside the primordial chaos ring," Little White shouted as he struggled in the waves. Bailey Hongzhuang just shook her head. "Even if you guys don't want to bear any hardships, you still need to improve your strength. It's better for you guys to train with me." "Master, don't wanna," Little Black howled in grief. To think that her originally beautiful, refined appearance had turned into one of a drenched rat's. Their soft, shiny fluff, ruined, all ruined. The rocks eroded below the waterfall were slippery, and the falling water pressed down on them. Bailey Hongzhuang's body could barely resist the pressure of the water falling from over 10 meters above. Her body was hit by the overhead stones, bringing forward bursts of pain. But Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to feel nothing at all, continuing to climb under the waterfall. But the final result was still the same. Before Bailey Hongzhuang could even stand firm on the rock, her whole body was pounded away by the waterfall's pressure. Standing up once more, Bailey Hongzhuang insisted on walking back under the waterfall every single time. When the originally complaining fluffballs saw Bailey Hongzhuang unyielding back going again and again, they silently closed their mouths. Facing this kind of suffering, their master didn't utter even a single word. It just wasn't right for them to continue bawling, not doing a thing. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips had already frozen to a purple color, but deep inside her eyes a bright glittering light shone firmly. She propped herself up with her own strong conviction. She must be stronger. For all the humiliation she suffered, for her biological parents, and for her own unyielding arrogance. She was ruthlessly swept away by the waves, but kept on standing up over and over again. From the beginning to end, Bailey Hongzhuang had never wavered even a little. Not too long ago, Heimu had seen Bailey Hongzhuang like that, with her spirits raised and full of pride. Wang Fei is truly persistent. Heimu endlessly sighed with regret. She and Little Lord are very much the same. He had followed the Little Lord since childhood, and had watched him suffer through untold hardships in his cultivation. Everyone only saw the Little Lord's glory, but only he knew just how hard Little Lord worked to get there. Although there were always many female cultivators encompassing them, it was very rare to find somebody who practiced as hard as Wang Fei. A glint of admiration flickered in Dibei Chen's eyes. From the very first time he met Bailey Hongzhuang, he knew right away she was a woman with a determined heart. This was Dibei Chin's first time seeing Bailey Hongzhuang cultivate. In her unwavering eyes, he seemed to almost see himself from that time. They were willing to risk their lives, able to pay any price to grow stronger. Maybe that was why he, who had never liked women, wanted to care for this woman in this short time. Wang Fei already suffered a lot of injuries. Should we help? Heimu couldn't help but worry a little. Chapter 115. Dibei Chin waved his hand. Even if you go, what can you do? Heimu was slightly startled, but after thinking a little, he couldn't help but admit. There was simply nothing he could do to help. Cultivation is something you must persevere in alone. Even if other people can help in the end, you must rely on yourself. Dibei Chin's lips curved, let alone Bailey Hongzhuang, who has been cultivating alone for so long. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't leave until nightfall. Her body was already frozen stiff, scorching pain continuously coursing through her body, making her eyebrows pucker. Not far from the waterfall was a small cave. It should have formerly been a demonic beast's den, but since it was abandoned, it's now actually a very suitable place for Bailey Hongzhuang to rest. Entering the den, Bailey Hongzhuang cautiously examined her injuries. Her 2 shoulders were already pounded gray by the waterfall, hands and feet purple from crashing against the rocks as blood bled from a few parts of her body. After one short day, she was already completely covered with cuts and bruises. This body's innate quality is really lacking, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. It would take a very long time if she wanted to speed up this body's cultivation. Wifey. At this moment, Dibei Chin's voice suddenly sounded outside the cave. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly left the cave, only to see Dibei Chin standing, looking at her with a smile. Heimu wasn't by his side. Why did you come? She had noticed Dibei Chin later left to cultivate on his own, but they had previously agreed not to interfere with each other's cultivation. This is for you. Dibei Chin handed Bailey Hongzhuang an exquisite porcelain bottle. Your body will be many times stronger after eating a pill. It can improve your body's inner quality and bolster your recovery speed. Having it would be very beneficial to you. Hearing his words, Bailey Hongzhuang's hands swayed a little as she accepted the porcelain bottle from Dibei Chin's hands. Many thanks. Then you rest properly, don't push yourself, Dibei Chin urged, leaving behind a sentence as he left. Not far away, he and Heimu also found a similar cave. If something happened with Bailey Hongzhuang, they'd be able to find out immediately. Watching Dibei Chin's back disappear into the darkness, a touch of warmth appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. In his current state, Dibei Chin had no reason to come here, and it would have been far more comfortable to cultivate in his palace. He only came to the forest for her safety. Up to now, Dibei Chin was the only person who cared about her safety. Returning to the cavern, Bailey Hongzhuang took out the immortality pills Dibei Chin had gifted her. Bailey Hongzhuang instantly recognized the name of the pills with a single glance. These are 7 treasure pills. 7 treasure pills was extremely useful to low-leveled cultivators. Compared with cultivation pills, the quality was far better. 7 treasure pills' ingredients were very precious. Before, Bailey Hongzhuang had also wanted to refine herself some as well. But when she asked around the Imperial City's herb shops, she just couldn't get enough to refine the 7 treasure pill and could only refine the slightly inferior cultivation pill. But she never expected for Dibei Chin to actually have 7 treasure pills, and so much too. With the 7 treasure pills, her cultivation would be 2-3 times faster. Without the slightest hesitation, Bailey Hongzhuang took out a 7 treasure pill and swallowed it before closing her eyes, entering a state of cultivation when the power stored inside a pill is consumed. One would usually enter a state of cultivation to fully maximize the pill's benefits. Very few cultivators could completely absorb all of the pill's power almost instantaneously. Chapter 116. The next day, at the break of dawn, Bailey Hongzhuang left the cave. After one night of cultivation, the terrible pain from yesterday had gotten somewhat better. Even though it was still a little sore, it was something she could easily bear with. After taking the 7 treasures pill, she could clearly sense that her body was clearly stronger than before. This was the power she got from cultivating. Her gaze sweeping the area, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't find any clue of Dibei-chen and Heimu. No longer continuing to search, she continued to cultivate under the waterfall. Right now, she had to make every second count. In order to get a good rank in the hunting feast, she needed to break through as soon as possible. There were two reasons why it was so important to get a good achievement at the Royal Hunting Feast. First, to wash away the title of trash, and second, because the rewards were very rich. The Royal Hunting Feast's rewards just so happened to be things she needed. Of course, she wouldn't let the opportunity slip away. With yesterday's experience, Bailey Hongzhuang was actually able to stay on the rock as she trained. But after a few mere seconds, her body was again washed away by the tides. Even though it was only a few short seconds, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was very satisfied. So long there's progress, completely training her body was inevitable. Time flew by in an instant. Bailey Hongzhuang continued to train every day, only stopping when her body was close to collapsing from exhaustion. Every night, she took a 7 treasures pill and cultivated until dawn. Under such almost masochistic training, Bailey Hongzhuang's progress was extremely fast. Coupled with her strange cultivation method, her cultivation speed was even enough to make Dibei-chen stunned. Even with the 7 treasures pill's help, it was simply impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang's strength to improve so quickly. Heimu always respected Bailey Hongzhuang, prostrating himself in admiration. He had originally thought Bailey Hongzhuang would only be able to persist for a day. Every day was simply too difficult. But he never thought Bailey Hongzhuang would actually do it every single day, each time staying on the rock longer than the last. It was as if she just couldn't feel pain or despair. If he could also have Bailey Hongzhuang's willpower, he would certainly break through and enhance his strength once again. Every day, Dibei-chen and Heimu both went out to hunt and always came back with different demonic beasts to roast, treating it like a meal. Heimu's barebacking skills were unexpectedly good, so every day, Bailey Hongzhuang was able to enjoy a good meal. Furthermore, a demonic beast's flesh was plump and full of vitality, helping immensely as she recovered her strength. Although she didn't know why Dibei-chen was taking such pains for her, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was very grateful to Dibei-chen. Of course, this guy naturally wasn't poor either. Finally, the royal family's hunting feast was about to begin. Bailey Hongzhuang, the 3 people, began their journey back. Throughout her cultivation, Bailey Hongzhuang could clearly feel the changes happening within her body. Although her body was still as thin as before, she could clearly feel her power was incomparable to before. Her muscles were even more toned, and even her skin was strong and shiny. After eating so many demonic beasts, 10 years' worth of malnutrition and abuse have improved a lot. Her whole body shone with the glossy luster of gems, her physique clearly much stronger. In the afternoon, Bailey Hongzhuang and Dibei-chen returned to the prince's mansion. After more than 10 days living in the wild, there was an indescribably familiar feeling coming back to the prince's mansion. But the Li family were panicking over Li Yue's freckles the entire time. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang slow coming back, they looked for other doctors, only to get the same outcome. Chapter 117 Lord, the Royal Hunting Feast begins tomorrow. Yuera has to participate, but how can she go see His Highness, the Crown Prince, with her appearance like this? Zhao Wenxiang worried endlessly. Up until now, the Prime Minister's mansion has completely sealed off all information from leaking out. But tomorrow, it was impossible to continue hiding it. Li Chengqian's face was very unsightly. Tomorrow, the royal family's hunting feast will begin, so Bailey Hongzhuang should have already been back. Could it be possible that Bailey Hongzhuang doesn't want to attend? How isn't it possible? Zhao Wenxiang sighed. Bailey Hongzhuang has a trash physique, so there's no point in joining the hunting competition. Both of Prince Qin's legs are crippled, so how could he even take part? Listening to Zhao Wenxiang, Li Chengqian's face turned very ugly. If that's truly right, then we can only say Yuer isn't feeling well. No matter what, we mustn't let His Majesty, the Emperor, or the Crown Prince know about this. I spent so long preparing for the hunting competition, though. Li Yue was unwilling. The royal family's hunting feast and competition only occurs once every 2 years. To win glory at the hunting competition, she had even taken an immortality pill. But now, She was actually letting this long-awaited for opportunity slip by. Don't tell me you actually want His Highness, the Crown Prince, to see you like this. Li Chengqian's voice was as cold as ice. He has waited many years for an opportunity to turn Li Yuyue into a phoenix. He couldn't fail through the lack of a final effort now. Just as Li Chengqian was worrying over this, the housekeeper hurriedly ran over to them. Lord, good news? What kind of news can be considered good right now? Li Chengqian's voice was filled with melancholy. Lord, Chun Wang and Chen Wangfei had just returned to the prince's mansion a few minutes ago. The housekeeper's face revealed joy. In accordance to the Lord's instructions, there was a person sent to watch Chen Wangfei at all times. In the case Chen Wang and Chen Wangfei returned, they would inform the Lord right away. Hearing that, Li Chengqian and the other two looked stunned for a moment. Then a strong shine bloomed in their eyes immediately. Waiting for so long, Bailey Hongzhuang finally came back the day just before the royal family's hunting competition begins. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang was able to cure Li Yuyue's face, everything would be safe and sound. Thinking of that, Li Chengqian and the rest of the Li family suddenly felt their hearts stir with excitement. Li Chengqian immediately sent someone to prepare a carriage and hurried Li Yuyue to the prince's mansion. Right now, this couldn't be delayed. Bailey Hongzhuang had barely returned to her room and was about to rest when she heard a servant report the arrival of the prime minister. When she heard that report, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and her lips curled into a sneering shape. It seemed that during the days she'd left, Li Yuyue didn't have an easy time. At the same time, Dibei Chan also entered the room. Li Chengqian came, and specifically wanted to see you. How are things? Going to play with them? To the words Dibei Chan said smiling, Bailey Hongzhuang answered laughing. It's an honor for our esteemed prime minister to visit us. Naturally, we should go take a look. Dibei Chan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, his gaze holding a spoiling light to it. He already knew why Li Chengqian came here today. He knew right away that it was because of Bailey Hongzhuang's unfortunate temper. This must have happened right after Nikhang Market. Bailey Hongzhuang and Dibei Chan moved to the lobby, her footsteps calm and unhurried. Li Chengqian's heart had long been filled with fury. He was this dynasty's prime minister, the future Guozhang, but Dibei Chan and Bailey Hongzhuang dared to make him wait for them. Chen Wangye and Chen Wangfei are indeed busy people. Guozhang is kinda like Grand Duke, basically the emperor's father-in-law. Chapter 118. Li Chengqian's words were full of sarcasm. Although he didn't directly say it aloud, Bailey Hongzhuang and Dibei Chan were both smart people and naturally knew the anger hidden in his voice. What kind of business does Prime Minister Li have with us? Dibei Chen's expression was calm, acting as if the one Li Chengqian was mocking wasn't him, and got straight to the point. An instant of bewilderment flashed in Li Chengqian's eyes. Dibei Chen never had any kind of status, so according to reason, he should have already been shivering in fear and trepidation. But now as Dibei Chen opened his mouth to speak, an imposing aura erupted, filling the air. It was even enough to make him feel pressured. Exactly because of such pressure, Li Chengqian didn't press any further. I came here today to ask a favor from Chen Wangfei. Her beautiful face held a touch of confusion. Bailey Hongzhuang asked, Ask me? Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's honest confusion, Li Chengqian's heart grew a little anxious. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang truly didn't have anything to do with this? From the moment he started speaking, he had always been observing Bailey Hongzhuang. If this really was Bailey Hongzhuang's doing, she shouldn't have been able to hide it so well. Recently, strange blemishes had begun to appear on my daughter's face for no reason at all, and hopes Chen Wangfei would be able to treat this. Li Chengqian slowly spoke. Even though he was the one asking for Bailey Hongzhuang's help, Li Chengqian's face was still as haughty as before. Coming here with his identity, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't dare refuse. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faintly discernible cold smile as she stared at Li Yuyue, who was standing behind Li Chengqian, her voice provocative. Miss Li came to ask for my help? Li Yuyue was very unwilling, coming to the prince's palace. She had previously wanted to make a show out of Bailey Hongzhuang, but now she has lowered her head to Bailey Hongzhuang for a favor. Like this, where would her face go? Ask you? When Li Yuyue heard Bailey Hongzhuang's provocative tone, her face instantly flushed red. You're dreaming. Oh. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. Then please go back. I'm very busy with other things. Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude was lazy, her words seeming very indifferent. In fact, she had never intended to give Li Yue the medicine from the start. She was never a kind-hearted person. Those that offend her must prepare to pay a price. Li Yue was startled. She never thought that even with Li Chengqian present, Bailey Hongzhuang would still dare to act so arrogant. Bailey Hongzhuang, you clearly know my identity. You actually dare to refuse. Li Chengqian's face was gloomy. This Bailey Hongzhuang truly didn't know what was good for her. An utterly enchanting smile bloomed from the corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips. Li Yue, weren't you also saying this sentence earlier? The light in her eyes grew impatient. Bailey Hongzhuang thought that Li Yue was truly an idiot without brains, doing nothing all day but using her identity to bully people. Apart from this, she simply didn't have anything else. Audacious. Li Chengqian was angry. Bailey Hongzhuang, I am the grand and magnificent Prime Minister. Those who dare to offend me, do you know their fates? Bailey Hongzhuang's smile slowly turned cold, her voice containing a bone-chilling iciness. In any case, I am the Chen Wangfei. As the Prime Minister, what can you do to me? If you have the ability, do it directly. Don't stay here to speak a pile of rubbish. I'm too lazy to listen. Hearing her words, Li Chengqian was unable to restrain his anger. With his identity and position, whoever in the imperial court would yield to him, or at least give him some face. This Bailey Hongzhuang actually had the impertinence to challenge him, simply courting death. Bailey Hongzhuang, do you think your life will be happy as Chen Wangfei? Chen Wang is only a bastard child, and isn't even favored by the emperor. Like this, what are you going to be? Li Chengqian shouted. Because Li Chengqian was so furious, he didn't think of any consequences and directly spat the words out. Almost everyone knew Chen Wang was the bastard child of Xinyuan Yutian, but almost nobody dared to speak it aloud in front of others. When Li Chengqian said these words, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly felt a low pressure surrounding her, almost making it hard to even breathe. Are you aware of what you're saying? An icy, constrained voice suddenly sounded. Dibei Chen's eyes seemed to hold a terrifying storm, like a black hole containing unimaginable power. Li Chengqian was startled. Only after spitting those words out did he regret them. Even if it was true, anything that related to the imperial household's prestige mustn't be talked upon lightly. If this were to be passed on to the emperor, he'd be completely out of luck. Sensing Dibei Chen's cold, acute gaze, Li Chengqian could only feel as if he was being stared at by a fierce beast, his whole body freezing up, becoming hard to even breathe. His eyes slowly widened. Li Chengqian looked at Dibei Chen, stunned. Before, he had only thought Dibei Chen was a cripple without the least bit of power. But Li Chengqian never thought he could actually also be so frightening. Although faint, he almost felt the same fear standing in front of Dibei Chen as standing in front of the emperor. How could it be possible? Li Chengqian felt stunned by his thoughts. His imposing aura was simply too astonishing. How could Dibei Chen have changed so much after marrying? Seeing Dibei Chen actually dare to threaten Li Chengqian, Li Yue's voice was furious. You, a cripple, dares to threaten my father. What do you see us as? Saying this, Li Yue turned to face Bailey Hongzhuang arrogantly. Bailey Hongzhuang, you. Before Li Yue could finish her sentence, Bailey Hongzhuang heard a loud noise followed almost immediately with a mad screech from Li Yue. Because right when Li Yue started to speak, Heimu acted. It was simple but ruthless. One fist directly met Li Yue's body, blasting her straight outside the lobby, smashing through the front door, before landing in the yard. Heimu's eyes flashed with excitement. For these 3 past years, he was always forced to restrain his killing intent whenever his little lord was insulted and humiliated. His little lord had never let him act. But today, his little lord actually allowed him. Just from little lord's attitude in allowing him to take action, Heimu knew that they would no longer have to endure silently. Just the thought of this made his heart beat with excitement. Li Chengqian was stupefied by what had just occurred. Everything happened in a few, mere seconds. Before he could even react, Li Yue was already seriously injured. Dibei Chen, you're done for. Li Chengqian's face turned extremely ugly. He simply couldn't believe the scene before his eyes was actually real. The until now always bullied and humiliated Bewitching actually dared to strike against his daughter? Old scoundrel, I'm giving you a chance. If you don't get lost right now, I won't mind having you fly out as well. Bewitching's face was indifferent, playing down the scene as if it was no different from kicking out a dog. Good, good. Li Chengqian's face paled, his eyes containing nothing but fury. Bewitching, you'll definitely regret this. Scram. Li Chengqian immediately left the lobby, dragging Li Yue behind him as they left Prince Chen's mansion. In his heart, he secretly vowed to take revenge. Bailey Hongzhuang raised a slender brow. The scene before her was even more brilliant than she had thought it'd be. Chapter 120. Wifey, were you taken breathless by your hubby? Turning his head, a bewitching smile formed on Bewitching's face as he gazed at Bailey Hongzhuang teasingly. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help be startled at the speed Bewitching's expression changed. Speechless, look at yourself first. Aren't you the one breathless? Although she said that, the smile in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes actually deepened. From Bewitching's actions today, she clearly understood what he wanted to do. Even a fish, upon encountering difficulties, could become a dragon. Bewitching was never destined to live his life curled up in the tiny Fengbo country. Now that his legs were cured, the ambitions in his heart would naturally arise. They happily talked with each other until they arrived at their rooms, but they didn't mention Li Yue at all. In fact, they never even placed Li Yue in their eyes. In the deep moonlight, the wind was cold like water. The light of the moon shone clearly through the window into the room, glimmering over Bewitching at the side of the window. A pondering look appearing on his unusually handsome face. Little Lord. Heimu stood perfectly straight, saluting behind Bewitching. Bewitching didn't turn around, and only gazed at the bodies of stars in the night sky, his eyes hazy. Are all the preparations complete? Heimu nodded his head, answering the little lord. Everything is already prepared. Tomorrow, we will leave Fengbo country. You guard Hongzhuang in secret. No matter what, you must protect her. Bewitching ordered. Heimu understands. Looking at his tall and straight posture, Heimu's eyes slowly changed. Little Lord truly does treat Lady Bailey differently. Originally, his little lord used to loathe anything that would hinder him. As a result, for the past few years, there was not one person that could enter the little lord's heart. But since Lady Bailey's arrival, it all seemed to change. Little Lord even left him here to guard her. This alone was enough to show her importance in the little Lord's heart. Bewitching waved his hand, and Heimu left promptly. Little Lord wanted to depart tomorrow, so he probably had many things to talk about with Lady Bailey. Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating in her room when she suddenly heard a burst of movement outside the door. Bewitching directly pushed open the door and entered. Could you at least knock on the door before entering? Bailey Hongzhuang was completely speechless. How would she face him if Bewitching were to accidentally see her while she happened to be changing clothes or something? Bewitching smiled ambiguously at Bailey Hongzhuang. You're already my wifey. How could you still see me as an outsider? Not regarding somebody as an outsider doesn't seem to be a very good idea. Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow without another word before sitting down and pouring herself a cup of tea. Coming to find me so late at night. Is something wrong? The teasing look disappeared from Bewitching's face, and gazing fixedly at Bailey Hongzhuang's face, he slowly said, I need to leave tomorrow. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes changed a little. Although she had already anticipated Bewitching's leave earlier, hearing it now, her heart still couldn't help but tremble. Oh, Bailey Hongzhuang agreed indifferently, her face the same as ever as if she didn't care at all. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang hid her feelings extremely well, Bewitching still managed to see through to the turmoil in her heart. His eyes turned a little warm. Bewitching took a seat beside Bailey Hongzhuang. His pupils deep like an ocean's gazed at Bailey Hongzhuang's that were black as ink, his face serious. I need to go out later. You must take good care of your body, don't let yourself get injured. Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to laugh at the few words Bewitching had said, but when she saw the deep worry in Bewitching's eyes, her voice got stuck on her throat and she was unable to say anything. I will come back as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.